Hey guys, how's it going? It's Tong again with another video blog, and I'm here to talk about another kind of controversial topic today. And if you guys see my other YouTube video blog videos, you might know that I like to talk about these controversial topics. I like to get these discussions going, these debates going, and I'm not the type of person to hold back on some of these issues. I like to talk about it on social media, on my Facebook, and on my blog. And because I think that it needs to be said. Some things just needs to be said. Some people just need to talk about these things, else no one is going to talk about it. I have to raise these issues so that more people are aware of them. And today I want to talk about stereotypes and racism. And I'm not a politically correct person, and I don't care to be controversial. That's what I am. And I want to talk about this topic today. And it's because recently I've talked about gun control, I've talked about racism against Asians in Hollywood. So continuing on that topic, kind of a little bit similar, or a similar thread to that topic, is the recent mass shooting that happened in Orlando, of course, in the nightclub. A lot of people have heard about this, and it is a terrible tragedy, but what I want to tell you guys is that I think that the way that media portrays these mass shooters is different depending on their race. And I think there's a racism issue here because particularly in America, people have these stereotypes about white people, about Asian people, about black people, about Hispanic people, and about Middle Eastern people. And they especially have prejudice, I would say, against Muslims, it seems, especially when you have a guy like Donald Trump running in the presidential election, and he's the type of guy that says, oh, let's just put a wall between America and Mexico because all illegal immigrants are bad. According to him, all illegal immigrants are rapists or drug dealers or whatever, and all Muslims apparently are terrorists, and that's simply not true. A Muslim attack just a few days ago happened in Medina, which is in Saudi Arabia, which is one of the most holiest sites of Islam. Why would that happen in Arabia? If ISIS really was Muslim, if they really were Muslim, why would that happen against other Muslims? That is like the second holiest city in Islam, and that terrorist attack happened in that city, and it just goes to show you that not all Muslims are like that. Not all Muslims are terrorists. ISIS is not Muslim. They are just a terrorist group. There's nothing Muslim about it. And this is what people don't understand, is that they see these ISIS attacks that happen, and they think that, all ISIS attacks happened because their religion, promotes killing or whatever. But it really doesn't. There's over 1 billion Muslims on the planet, and when you have 1 billion people, and Christians committed a lot of killings as well in history, but Muslim people, I always actually say that Muslim people are more peaceful than Christians if you talk about historically, and a lot of the mass murders that happened in history were actually committed by Christians. And for Muslim people, there's going to be terrorist groups like ISIS that really are not Muslim at all, and people get them mixed up. They think that Muslim people must be terrorists, and then terrorist equals ISIS, but it's really completely different. People get mixed up. Anyways, the guy who committed the Orlando shooting, he was not Muslim, and but apparently unfortunately he had a Middle Eastern name, and he is a Middle Eastern race, and because of that, the media reported him as a Muslim and as an ISIS supporter, even though the only evidence that he was in any way related to ISIS was that in that one 911 call that he made, he said, oh, he pledged to ISIS or whatever. But that's the only evidence that he was in any way related to ISIS. But he's not really related to ISIS, right? Even in that call, he just talked about ISIS, but he wasn't related to ISIS at all. And the media reports the story as if he was just another terrorist, like the ones that happen in the Middle East or in Europe, the ISIS attacks. But it's totally not. He just happens to have a Middle Eastern background, and it's not fair that people just stereotype him as as a Muslim and a terrorist when he's not really related at all. If you look at the other stories related to him, the other news, his family and friends basically just said that he committed that shooting, that murder, because he didn't like gays, because he hated gay people. He was maybe a homophobe, and that's why he did it, not because he was in any way related to ISIS. So it's not a terrorist attack at all. It has nothing to do with terrorism. It's just a hate crime. But unfortunately, the media reports it as such, and this is the problem, because the media is biased. And I think whenever a Middle Eastern guy with a Middle Eastern background, whenever a guy like that commits a mass, or even just a single murder, they will be portrayed as a terrorist. Whereas if the murderer was white, then he would have mental issues, and if the murderer was black, then it's a gang-related crime. So basically, it's like white equals mental issues, Middle Eastern equals terrorist attack equals Muslim, and black equals gang-related attack. So it's like all stereotyped, and that's not fair, I think. And just to get proof of that, what happened a few weeks after the Orlando shooting? This mom in Texas was convicted of killing her daughters, and she had a gun, and she had mental issues, and she shot her daughters and killed them in front of her husband, and that was portrayed in the media as a mental issue. It was not a terrorist attack, it was a mental issue. Why? Because she was white. And I don't think that the color of your skin should label who you are and how you're reported in the media. I don't think that's fair. Just a few days ago, a Palestinian boy, I think he was 17, killed an American girl in her sleep in Israel, and people reported this as a terrorist attack. Why? It's nothing to do with a terrorist attack. The only thing related to terrorists is that he's okay. This is why I think they reported it as a terrorism, because he's Palestinian, which means he's from the Middle East, and the Middle East has a lot of Muslims. It has a lot of ISIS attacks, and then people think, oh, then there must be a terrorist attack. But I mean, come on, it's just one boy killing one girl. It's nothing to do with a terrorist attack at all. And I hate that he's being labeled a terrorist just because he has a Middle Eastern background. And same with the Texas mom. If the Texas mom, if she was a Middle East, it would be a terrorist attack. But no, she's white, so she has mental issues. So that doesn't make sense to me. I don't think that's fair. So I just want to say that I don't like how the media reports things. I don't like how they find out the background or the race of the murderer, and then based on that race, that's how they report it. So I don't like it. Another thing I want to talk about is about the ISIS attacks that's been happening recently. I just talked about the one that happened in Medina, and there's just another few days ago, there was one that happened in Istanbul airport, and I've been to Istanbul. I've been to that airport, and I mean, I think Turkish people are really friendly and nice, but that happened, and I'm really sad about that. But that happened in Istanbul, and just yesterday, one happened in Iraq, in Baghdad, and then of course there's terrorist attacks with ISIS attacks that's been happening for a long time now. It's been happening in Brussels, of course, in Paris, about that, in Tunisia, in Syria, Iraq, India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Lebanon, etc. There's a lot of ISIS attacks that happens all over the world. But the thing I don't disagree about how the media reports things is how they report Western attacks much more than the attacks on the non-Western countries. So I just gave you a list about how many ISIS attacks happen in how many different countries, but guess which one is reported the most, right? I mean, obviously it's the one that's happened on the Western countries. The one that happened in Brussels, the one that happened in Paris, was reported a lot more than the one that happened in other countries, like in Lebanon or in Turkey or in Pakistan or in Iraq. And yeah, that's not fair, because I think that everyone if we're talking about equality, if we're in the age of equal media reporting, then just as much attention should be focused on the other countries as there is focused on the Western countries. But it's not. The Western countries, the attacks on the Western countries got a lot more media coverage, and that's not really fair. And in fact, I know some people are going to say that, well, Western media, reports on the attacks on Western countries more, because they're Western and they're supposed to report on what happens in Western countries. But that's not the case. In fact, media outlets around the world devoted much more attention to the Brussels and Paris attacks than to any other ISIS-related attack, which happens in a whole bunch of countries, non-Western countries. In fact, just a few days ago, earlier this week, a tornado actually happened in Jiangsu, China, and killed 99 Chinese people. And guess what? No Western media ever reported that. No Western media ever reported that. And if that happened in the United States of America, I bet every single media outlet in the world would report that. But because it happened in China, American media, Western media doesn't care about it. And they don't care about it. The only way I knew is because I went on Wikipedia and I found out about it. So it wasn't reported in the news, and which really sucks. And yeah, like the Paris attacks is a prime example. When the Paris attacks happened, I agree that it's a tragedy, right? And we should show support to Paris victims, but we shouldn't show them at the expense of other victims that happened in the ISIS attacks as well. Because everyone was changing their profile pictures on Facebook into that the Paris flag. Facebook made a tool to change people's profile pictures to support the victims of the Paris attacks. But the problem is that it seems that the victims of the Paris attacks, it's fine and all to support them, but if you're going to support the Paris victims, why not support other victims and other ISIS-related shootings? Why didn't Facebook make a tool to support, like the Beirut, Lebanon attacks, which happened the same day, or around the same time? Why didn't they make a tool to support the Istanbul, Turkey victims? Why didn't they make a tool to support like the Tunisia victims or the Medina victims? Facebook is a global website, right? It's American, I know, but it's a global website. It's supposed to give equal attention to everyone around the world, but because of Western media, how it reports things, after the Paris attacks, for the next whole week and after, everything was just focused on the Paris attacks. And everyone around the world changed their profile pictures, their Facebook pictures to support the Paris victims. But the truth of the matter is that if it happened in any other country, like a non-Western country, then no one would really care about it. Like what happened in Istanbul, or what happened in Pakistan, what happened in Iraq, no one would care about that because they're not in a Western country. And that's not really fair. I don't think that Western countries have, or the blood of Western victims is worth more than the blood of other victims. I don't think it's fair. It's not equal. It's not equal justice, right? And I even saw on Chinese and Korean media, since I live in Korea, I know this, Chinese and Korean media outlets very widely reported the Paris attacks and the Orlando shootings. Everyone knows about it here. Everyone in Korea knows about the Orlando shootings and Paris attacks, but they don't know about the Istanbul attacks, they don't know about the Medina attacks, they don't know about Iraq attacks, and the other ones on non-Western countries. In fact, I believe that the Paris and Orlando attacks actually got more coverage in China than their own tornado disaster, which happened in China, which killed 99 Chinese people, right? And doesn't make sense to me. How can you devote more time to something that happened in a country other than yours more than something that happened in your own country, right? That doesn't make much sense to me. So yeah, it's just a fact to me that Western people and Western society they just get way more attention than other societies do. And this might be the case because Western countries are richer, more economically powerful, whatever you want to call it, but Japan and China don't exactly get the same amount of coverage, even though they're number 2 and number 3 in the world economies, right? So yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. And yeah, like I said, Facebook is also part of this case, right? They made this profile generator tool for Paris victims. They didn't do that for any other ISIS attacks. Why just Paris? On KakaoTalk, Korean application, I saw many people have pray for Paris messages on there, but not a single pray for Istanbul, pray for Baghdad. No, just the Brussels and Paris, that's it. So this just reinforces the issue that Western societies get the most coverage. And in fact, I want to extend this to history, because historically Western societies seem to be the most dominant in history. And this is, as an Asian person, I think part of the reason is that Western society does get more coverage, and the world in general just seems more focused on Western societies than non-Western societies. I mean, if you look at the most famous people throughout the world, the most famous celebrities, most of them are going to be Western, right? I mean, look at history. The most famous scientists, conquerors, discoverers, kings, monarchs, all basically Western, right? You have the George Washingtons, the Christopher Columbuses, the Abraham Lincolns, William Shakespeare, Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein. You know, all these really famous people, the most famous people in history were Westerners. And that's the thing, like, we don't really know their Asian equivalents. Do we know their Persian equivalents? Do we know like their African equivalents? We don't really know. We only know the guys from Europe and North America, and that's about it. I would say like 80% of the most famous people in history were from North America or Europe. That's, you know, that's just unfair. And if you want to talk about like people that are forgotten, like Christopher Columbus, for example, do you know who is the Chinese equivalent? Zheng He, right? There's actually a guy called Zheng He who actually explored the world as a Chinese. He explored the world, that was a great navigator, but no one knows him. Everyone just knows Christopher Columbus. Well, not some people know him, but like most people don't know him. And if you want to talk about great scientists or polymaths, there's a Chinese person called Shen Kuo, a very famous Chinese polymath who made many important discoveries like the magnetic compass long before Europeans did, and he is far less known than Leonardo da Vinci, you know, who is the equivalent polymath in Western society. You know, everyone knows who Leonardo da Vinci is, but not many people know who Shen Kuo is. So that's just the thing about history, about the way that everything is done in global society these days is focused mostly on Western society. And well, I guess this video is actually focused more on media than it is on stereotypes and racism. But yeah, I just want to rant a little bit about how media is reported, how Western society seems to get the most coverage. And it's not really fair how Western people seem to be like you know, the most important people in history. And whenever you hear Western people, okay, let's think about this: Michael Jackson, Steve Jobs. You know, whenever they passed away, it's like a whole global event. You know, it's a whole global event whenever one of those things happens. But how about when a famous Chinese person passes away? What about when a famous African, South American, I don't know, like when a Russian person, you know, when a famous person from a non-Western society passes away, I don't think there's any global like mourning or whatever. You know, like it's not really fair. The amount of attention that's devoted to Western people in Western societies compared to other people, non-Western people in non-Western societies is not equal, you know. And this has been the case throughout history. It's been the case now through Hollywood. You know, I made another video mentioning about how Asians are misrepresented in Hollywood, and actually in general in Asia, white people are kind of worshipped upon. And I've talked about this in my video about one of the 5 things I don't like about Korea, is that Korea and other Asian countries like China, like Japan, basically any Asian country, basically they worship white people. They think that if you're white, then you have more power and you are like cool or whatever, because they watch Hollywood, they're influenced by the media. They just think that white people are better. And even in Japanese animation, you can see the case. I've complained about this Ghost in the Shell stuff, where the Ghost in the Shell adaptation, the character is Japanese, she's in a Japanese place, her name is Japanese and stuff, but she's being portrayed as a white actor. And Japanese people, the actual Japanese people who are doing the movie there, who did Ghost in the Shell, they said they have no problem with it. They're okay with Scarlett Johansson doing it. And I can say, well, I think that's because Japanese people or Asian people don't really have much respect for their own race as much as white people. And I think they should really stand up for their own, Asians should really stand up for their own race more, you know. Like, they should say, no, this should be a Japanese person. Why does it have to be a white person? Like, why, in Japanese anime, they make the anime characters look white, like Goku, right? I mean, I don't think Goku is white in Dragon Ball Z, but anyways, he's drawn that way. He's drawn with white skin or whatever. Anime characters are drawn with white skin because, and like white features, because they look up to white people. And I really think that Asian societies, China, Korea, Japan, whoever, should focus more on their own race and on white people being superior to them, right? In Korea, you have so many movies from Hollywood that are being translated over, and so many, for some reason, a lot of Koreans that I meet, they put their Kakao profile pictures or whatever as white people. I'm not sure why, but they put their profile pictures or whatever. They just post pictures on Facebook about like white couples being together, white people being together. I have no idea why this is the case. They think that white people are better looking than they are. They think that white people are better than they are. Like, I don't get what's so great about white people, you know? I don't understand that. You know, you should have some pride in your own race, especially when you're like, you have thousands of years of history. You should have more pride in your own race. I don't know why white people get worshipped upon so much. Like I said, in Korea, you can watch Hollywood movies at any time from America, but in America, you definitely can't watch Korean movies at any time in a movie theater. You know, that's just not the case. Same in Japan, same in China. You can watch so many movies from Hollywood and from Europe, but you can't watch any movies in America from like Asian countries. You know, it's not the other way around. And in China, you can actually, there's actually a service where you can rent a white person for a certain amount of money just to be able to make your business look more reputable or something, which is just ridiculous. So yeah, this, I think in general, Western society, Western people are focused a lot on, and the fact that Asian societies kind of look down, I mean, the fact that Asian societies kind of look up to white people doesn't really help this. Doesn't really help this case, you know. Like, the fact of the matter is that in America, in Europe, to a lesser extent, in Europe, they don't really care about Asians that much. They don't have any Asian movies or whatever. I mean, there's gonna be some people that watch Korean dramas, but for the most case, you're not gonna be able to watch like a Asian movie in a movie theater or whatever. You know, and Asians aren't looked upon to at the same level that Asians look up to white people at. So, yeah, and you'll find much more like white influence, I guess, in Asia than you will Asian influence in the American society or Western society. So yeah, I just want to say this is not equal. Asian and white society, Western society, whatever, is not treated equally. Obviously, I think throughout history, I think, and now, white people have held the power for a long time. Especially white men. White men have held the power for a long time and have continued to hold the power. And unless the media is really the tool for controlling people, because the way that other Asians here and people all over the world think about things, how children grow up, how people look upon other countries they never traveled to. How do they know about other countries? Well, through the media, right? Through Hollywood or through the news outlets. And if the media doesn't report things correctly, if they don't portray things accurately or in an equal way, then it's never going to change. Like, if the media keeps reporting more and focusing more time and energy on Western societies and white people and this thing, then it's always going to be like that, right? The attention is never going to be focused anywhere else in the world if that continues to be the case. So that the thing, in order for that to change, the media has to change, and the media is controlled by white people. It's controlled by Westerners. So yeah, that's just what I want to rant about, and that's it. Let me know if you have any comments. Dislike this video if you don't like it if you do like it. That's it.